Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining Doug and me for the Give and Go podcast. We took another couple weeks off after we said we were going to try doing it every week. Gets like that summertime. Today's guest, the first three-time guest, Jordyn Keating from Donovan Catholic. Jordyn, thank you for taking time out today, this
Thank you
morning.
for having me again.
Yeah, you're always, always enjoy having you on because, you're very well spoken. Very passionate what you believe in, and me and you started talking about getting this together, after the tragedy at James Madison with the catcher, with what's going on with all these, college athletes, that, are suicides, the pressures of everyday life, pressures of sports, pressures keeping up with your grades, some pressures of keeping people happy, even though, people might hide that. So, we wanted to get you on. No, college athlete, basketball player, had, you know, your first year, you transfer out of East Stroudsburg after 1 year, but I just start off. iPad was ringing. Sorry, uh, my mom's iPad was ringing. What we talk text message back and forth. What do you think? A dramatic increase over the past couple of years with these athletes. You being there, going through your first season, your first year of college. What do you think are some causes or some of the factors that are leading to this?
Definitely think that the outside pressures from like being an athlete is stressful enough. Like we put enough pressure on ourselves, we're hard on ourselves as it is. And then you have the outside influences of social media, you have the outside influences from coaches, other players, other coaches, that's not even yours, you got the fans. Like all of that definitely plays a role in how serious mental health ends up getting when it comes to being a college athlete, like especially at the Division 1 level, for like higher ups, and then even Division 2 and Division 3, you have like your local town fans, and then some people that do pay attention, um, coming around, depending on when the season hits. Those fans can be brutal sometimes. They can be brutal. You've got fans from schools that, kids around kids can be brutal. So you have one bad game, then the next day at school you don't hear the end of it.
Hmm.
Or just in general you've got then your regular pressures from coaches, your regular pressures from your teammates. If you don't feel like you're performing well, sometimes we don't necessarily have the best way of handling it. I mean, like, even coaches don't have the best way of handling it, players don't have the best way of handling it. Just overall, is just in general, like, we really kind of need to focus on, okay, you had a bad game, that's great, shake it off. Like, you know how to shoot, you're going to get it the next game. Or as a coach, you had a bad coaching game, that's fine, shake it off, get the next one. It kind of can't be this constant beating back and forth of, oh, I played bad, now she's going to yell at me, or now he's going to yell at me, or now my players and teammates are going to yell at me. I feel like that's kind of where a lot of this is coming from. It's a lot more apparent now, especially with social media, because it's not just back and forth words, it's on there forever. As soon as you post something that, oh, this person sucked and had a bad game, it's out there forever. And that already takes a toll on people that are kind of struggling with themselves to begin with and know they played bad. You don't want to hear it again. So
It's funny you mentioned social media because I try to think of what's so different between when we grew up and played sports and when you guys grew up and played
the one
sports.
difference, really.
And the coach, listen, I think the coaches were harder on us back then,
Yeah.
and I think that was a good thing. I like being coached. I know you like being coached.
Mm-hmm.
So coaches being hard on you wasn't a bad thing, but I think social media, for as many good things as it does, it connects you with people you haven't seen in a while. I mean, the pressures that you guys have to deal with going on there and reading comments about yourself and other things that people you don't even know are saying about you and
Mm-hmm.
students are saying about you, it's crazy. And for you to have to deal with school and athletics, and then you go on social media to probably get a breather from something, and then you read about, oh my God, this girl had a terrible game, she's terrible, thing.
Yep.
That's so hard to deal with. And who when that happens and things like that, who do you turn to talk to about that? Because older people like me don't really understand it, and like your parents are my age, they probably don't understand it. So who do you talk to when
I
that
mean,
stuff's going crazy?
when you have stuff like that like mentally in your head, you're kind of just like at a loss. Like you don't know necessarily where to go or who to speak to. I mean, for me, a lot of it was my parents and my friends. And I know like a lot of schools do have counseling services on campus. So definitely for athletes and people just in general, like take advantage of that. Most of the time they're free. Actually, probably like 100% of the time they're free. And just go speak to them. Because I know sometimes trying to talk to another teammate or a coach can get a little like intimidating of, okay, well, if I tell them that I feel like I'm bad and I tell them that I think it's their reaction to how I'm playing isn't helping me get better, it can just kind of start like a butt head kind of thing. But definitely take that advantage of using your friends, even if it's your friends home that have no idea what's going on at school. Like, use your friends, use your family. That's what your family's there for. Like they love you. They're not going to be like, oh my God, don't talk to me about this. Like if you're really struggling, like you can use them. And then I definitely found it beneficial to use counseling services at school. I mean, they're trained professionals. They know kind of exactly what to tell you and what you need to hear in order to help you kind of get out of your own head. So definitely those three outlets, because like I said, I know it can be scary trying to talk to another teammate or a coach and kind of feel like, okay, I can't actually tell them how I'm feeling because then they're just going to get mad at me or tell me, oh, well, you can't do it. Like, you know?
It's good that you did that because I think a lot of kids your age are afraid to go to talk to a counselor
Oh, I mean,
because
I was
there's,
so against
there's a
it.
stigma attached to it. What's wrong with you? What's going on with you? And the fact that you did that is good, but I think a lot of kids are scared to do that because somebody might think there's something wrong with them.
I mean, and I can 100% attest to that because at first I was so against it. Like, there's nothing wrong with me. Like, I'm not going there. Like, that's what was always in my head of like, I'm an athlete. Basically, I'm an athlete. I'm a superhero. I'm fine. Like, I've been coached hard. I've been yelled at. I've had bad games. I've had teammates tell me, oh, you suck today. I'm not passing. Like, I've had the whole 9 yards. But eventually it kind of comes to this point where you kind of just got to suck it up and be like, nothing's wrong with me. But it's fine to go to counseling. Like it's not saying that, oh, you're gonna have a mental breakdown in 5 years and never play basketball again. Like that's not what's attached to it. And I feel like that's what a lot of athletes think is if I become vulnerable once and go talk to somebody, I'm vulnerable forever and I'll never be able to take hard coaching, I'll never be able to play well and have fans scrutiny. And that's not the case at all.
I text you this, and you said you were going to think of an answer about me. I check in. I check in with you a lot, see how you're doing and stuff. And I could tell something just quite wasn't right this past season. But I never want. I don't like pushing it. Do you think with the things with the Stanford goal, like people should push a little bit just to see if you're doing okay or if you need to talk.
Definitely think that ignoring it is not the answer,
Uh-huh.
but it's more so finding the right way to attack
Yeah.
it. So every person's different. Like I know if someone, so like say if someone just randomly came up to me and I was like, if I was fine and someone randomly came up to me and was like, so are you like struggling? I'd be like, get out of my face. Like I don't care. Like don't tell me that. Don't tell me you think I'm not okay. But at the same time, if you see someone off to the side during practices, off to the side during games, not engaging with their teammates or really not performing well for a while, it kind of warrants that question of, hey, I don't want to like
Yeah.
yeah, like but what's going on? Like is there
Yeah.
something up? Is something with your family? Is it something with you? Is it something with a boyfriend or girlfriend? This anything. So I definitely think literally the simple question of are you okay can go a long way. And either you're gonna get I'm fine, don't worry about me, or you're gonna get someone that's gonna break down in your arms. Thank you for asking. I really needed that. So I mean I definitely think it should be a little bit more of a push from coaches, teammates. If you notice something off with one
People
of your
that see
players,
you every day.
someone that sees you every day, you're going to
Yeah.
eventually notice if something's
Yeah.
off. Or even friends, if they notice a different change in tone in your text messages or your FaceTime calls or voices,
Yeah.
anything, like you kind of start to pick up on, okay, she's not the same Jordyn, or she's not the same whoever as she was 8 months ago, 2 months ago. What's up? So
I'll tell you what the tell was. You were giving me a lot of one word answers, and
yeah,
you usually give me a little bit more than that. I mean,
yeah,
we don't go engage into long conversations, but you usually give me like a sentence or two, and I was getting a lot of one word answers, and that's when it started.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's as a parent, your parents, you went to school 2 hours away, so
Mhm.
it's a drive, and it's not close, but it's not far.
Yeah,
And Morgan goes to school 5.5 hours away,
yeah.
and when you call, you talk on the phone, you say, "Hey, how's it going?" And the answer you get is good. You're
Mhm.
like, okay, you want to expand on that? Like, you
Yeah.
want to,
Like,
like,
what's
what's
good?
good? Like, is school good? Soccer good? Basketball good? What's good? And
Yeah.
then, and they expand on a little bit, and then you automatically think, well, is something wrong? You
Yeah.
know,
And then the
and
conversation goes from good to, okay, actually, no, this and this is happening.
right,
Yeah.
and you don't want to push it because then it's
Mhm.
like, okay, mom, all right, dad, I'm good. Like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So
Like, stop asking me questions.
right, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because there's a line that you can get to
Mhm.
before you cross it, and they say, I'm good. I gotta go.
Yeah.
And then, I know if she finds it easier to talk to her mother, and that's fine. But when you get that one word answer like good, like Nick was saying, you get an answer. How's it going? Good. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, is it good? Are you fine? Fine is another answer. You're like, all right, what's fine? Like,
Yeah.
so
okay.
yeah, okay. So
That
as
was
a
my
parent,
go-tos. Okay.
you're like, okay, I'm only getting one word answers. I'm too far away to go see what's going on. So
Yeah.
it worries you a little bit. So I think that probably played, like you said, it plays a part in you don't want to have anybody worry about you.
Mhm.
So you try
Especially
to
as an
give as
athlete, that's
much
the last thing you
info.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Feel
tough.
you feel like you're superhero. That's what everyone feels like you need to. Like, don't worry about me. Like, I'll be fine. And eventually, sometimes you kind of got to just give in and be like, okay, yeah, I need to be worried about a little bit. Like, I'm a human too,
Mhm.
basically.
Doug, you got some really good questions here, so you could keep going right now.
Let me see what I got. So, I mean, most of them we talked about, but all right. So we talked about, when you're not feeling right, going to talk to somebody. So what is it about college students, college athletes? And I think you probably answered it with your Superman answer, but what is it about being an athlete and being a college student that makes you admit you're not feeling right? Like, at what point do you get to where you're like, okay, now I have to admit, like I said, okay, I said fine, and
Yeah.
now I have to kind of admit it. So how do you come out and actually admit that things aren't going well?
So, I mean, it's definitely hard. Like we said, college athletes, we are like on a pedestal. Like, no one ever wants to see us say like, oh, we're struggling with this. Like, oh, I'm struggling with anxiety, or oh, I'm struggling with stress, or oh, I'm struggling with depression, or oh, I'm struggling with an eating disorder. Like, any of that. Like, nobody ever wants to hear that come out of an athlete's mouth. College, high school, younger, older, anything, but especially college, because you watch us on TV, you watch a live stream, we're literally on a pedestal that we're kind of put above, that we're supposed to be these invincible humans. Um, and I think what really makes it hard is the simple fact that because we have so much with school and then social life, you're living away from home now, you have new friends, you meet new people, you date new people, you go to parties, you hang out in people's dorm rooms. So you have like all of this influence of, oh, I have schoolwork, but I want to go hang out with my friends. What do I do? Then I have basketball at 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, then I have basketball lift at 6 o'clock at night. Like, you have all of these different factors that it's kind of like you have no time to really sit down and say, am I okay? And then it kind of, I feel like, just comes to this point where there's just like a break, and you just kind of like everything comes out, and it's like, okay, well, I held that in way too long. I'm not fine. I can't really do this on my own now. I have to go tell somebody. And I think that happens for a lot of athletes because we have this stigma around us that we're supposed to be so like powerful and we're always supposed to be fine, that eventually we just hold it all in, and like we never tell anyone anything besides just stupid rants about, oh, my boyfriend annoyed me, or oh, coach was annoying at practice today, or oh, this test sucks. Like, no one ever really goes into like the deep rooted parts of, okay, well, coach annoyed, how did that make you feel? Your boyfriend annoyed you, how did that make you feel? Your test, how is that making you feel? And then you're holding in all of these thoughts, and then eventually one day you just pop. And then it's kind of like the pop happens, and like a balloon pops, it doesn't go back together. So then you got to kind of fill a whole new balloon, and that takes time. So I think that's kind of when it gets to the point of like, I can't handle this on my own anymore by keeping it in. I need to tell somebody, like, seriously, what's going on. Otherwise, I'm never going to be that athlete, that student, that friend again. And no one wants to hear that from anybody, but it's kind of the hard truth to accept.
It's kind of a weird thing, right? Like, you go to a school with 5,000 people, and if you were just a regular student, people would walk by you and say, oh, but you're an athlete, you're visible, everybody knows who you are.
You have gear on, you have backpacks, like
Yeah,
you're on a
so
team.
you're identified as,
Yeah.
oh, she's an athlete. So it's almost like you're revered in a sense because you play sports at school and people come watch you.
Like you're
But you're
open to
also
way more than the average
exactly
student is.
right. Like so that's tough to handle because as a regular student, you can go back to your room and chill out for 5
And be
hours,
like,
do whatever.
screw the world, I'm done. But you can't do
Right.
that as an athlete.
And
You
you
got to
got
go
to
to
go,
practice. You got to go
right.
to
You
a
got
game. You got to get on a bus.
exactly.
Like, there's no
Find
break.
time to study. It's crazy. So your day is pretty much 24 hours is a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tough to break from that schedule
Yeah.
and find time for yourself.
Exactly. And that's, I think, a big thing too of what's also causing all this is like you have so much time around your coaches, your teammates, your classmates, it's really it's coaches and teammates because that's who you spend probably majority of your day with because of how active a college athlete schedule is. And it's like you have no break from these people that you're with, Kevin, to just kind of have time to yourself. And it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna explode. Like I just need Jordyn time, or I just need whoever time, or you need time to yourself to kind of think like, man, these people really annoyed me today. Let me just forget about what they did and let it ride. You don't ever have time to do that. I think that's definitely a big factor. It's like it's constantly go, 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 and never just a time to breathe.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very tough because you're around those kids 18 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not getting along, it's tension. There's a lot of angst and there's really no way to deal with it because your coaches don't want to hear that you're not getting along. And, you guys don't want to say you're not getting along because it creates friction in the team. And it's a real tough situation.
You don't want to say you're not getting along with your teammates, your coaches, your strength coaches, your athletic trainers. Like you can't ever really say like, oh, well, you're doing this and it's really bothering me and affecting me how I'm playing. Can we try something different? Like that's not a thing. And it kind of should be more with this communication. Like, no coach is ever going to change their coaching style. No teammate is ever going to change their teammate style really at this level now. Like you're kind of adapted into how you work. But that little bit of communication of like, okay, well, I'm not performing well by you doing this or by you playing with me like this. Can we try to figure something else out? I feel like would go a long way with a lot of college athletes.
I agree with you. And I think another underrated underlying thing with mental health is everybody looks forward to going to college, right? You're in high school, I can't wait to go to college, can't wait to play basketball.
I think it gets hyped up a lot. And then you get there and you're like,
sometimes it doesn't match what you expected. And I think, and aside from sports, I think part of the mental health thing is your roommate, because you could end up with a great roommate who, can be a sounding board and can be a great friend, or you can end up with someone that you don't talk to, you never communicate with. And especially if it's a teammate, it makes it tougher because they may be going through the same thing as you, but you don't want to say anything. They don't want to say anything. So what was it like? I mean, growing up, you have a brother, right? You had your own room in your house. And when you're growing up, being put with somebody in an 8-by-8-foot room, how do you handle that for kids that are, have never done it?
First, how many roommates did you have? Did you
I
just have
only had one,
Okay.
just one. Yeah. Luckily enough, our dorm was kind of a suite style, so we each had our own separate rooms, within the room.
Okay.
So that was nice. But I mean, having a roommate, it kind of could go either way. It was nice because you're both on the same team, so you can kind of rant about what was bothering you today about from practice or the game or with a teammate or whatever. But at the same time, because you're teammates, you kind of can't say everything because you never know who it's going back to or how they feel about a situation, or maybe they're the ones that are aggravating you that day. It kind of can go either way. Yes, it's nice to have company, but at the same time, some people I feel would rather just be on their by themselves and just decompress without having to be oh, she's gonna hear me if I'm talking to this person, or oh this or oh that. And I mean, I think it kind of just depends on the kind of person you are. I found I have found pros and cons in having a roommate regardless. I definitely liked having my own room because if I really didn't want to be bothered, just shut the door and go to my room and whatever. But it was also nice to have someone to talk to if I wanted to, kind of thing, or go get food with, or this or that. But it really just depends on the kind of person you are and how you handle things. So, I mean, it could really go either way. And for me, like, it was 50-50. Like, a roommate was hit or miss. It just depended on the day of how I was feeling, you know? So.
Yeah.
Well, Morgan had 10 roommates, Doug told me.
They had a suite, 5 rooms, 2 girls in a room, so 10 girls, all
Oh my
soccer
God.
players, all freshmen. And, you know, Morgan's an only child. So
Yeah.
she was like, this is insane, right? I got to go. Like, she would take her car and just drive and go to Starbucks and then go sit on a hill somewhere just because she's not used to having all those people around.
Mhm.
And I think it was really cathartic for her. Like, let me just go decompress. I'll sit on a hill
Yeah.
by
I mean, I used to do
myself.
the same
And
thing. I would just get in my car and go drive somewhere and just sit and be like, okay, there's no
yeah,
people here, whatever. And I only had one roommate, but I mean, still,
it's tough because when you're not used to it, it's overwhelming.
yeah.
And, you know, listen, we all know teenage girls aren't always easy to get along with. So when you stick 10 of them in a suite, there's bound to be some drama going on. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's all these things factor into what we're talking, like mental health. And but these are things that people don't think about. Oh, you have roommates and what, but that can really be
Could
a
be
negative,
positive or negative. It could
right?
be both.
Yeah. I have one more, quite, you're very close, your family very close. Do you think that helped you get through the year,
Oh,
having a close
100%.
family?
If
Because
I
not
wasn't
everyone has
able,
that.
yeah, if I wasn't able to call my mom or my dad or my brother and just
Yeah.
kind of vent, and or not even vent, just like hear their voice and just have a conversation about anything but what was going on, I don't know what I would have done. Like, I really don't know how I would have gotten through the year. Just like getting over everything. But having them as like an outlet on top of like, going to talk to somebody or this or that, like, it was such a big help. Like, it very much so was.
Going into college and going, to start playing basketball, was there anything that was it what you expected? Was it kind of more difficult than you expected? Was it not as difficult as you expected? And what kind of adjustments did you have to make personally to getting used to school and practice?
I mean, I think it was definitely harder than I was expecting. And I don't want to say harder, but I guess there's really a lack of a better term. But the speed of the game is so much faster than anyone cares to admit. Like, you think you're playing SJV and you're bop on the court, like, try that times 10.
Yeah.
And that's like the worst team in the league times 10. So I mean, definitely the speed of the game, and then just being able to think like on a fly kind of thing of like, oh my God, the play broke down. Like, I need to just do this. Like, I feel like in high school and AAU, like, you had a little bit more time to be like, all right, whatever, I'm just taking it to the basket. Like, there's not a second option. And now you kind of have to like think of all these things like strategically and actually use your IQ and not just be like, okay, I'm an athlete, I'm taking it to the basket or I'm shooting it. Like, it doesn't necessarily go that way in college. And then obviously starting to gel with a whole new band of teammates, all new plays, a whole new coaching style. Like, those are definitely challenges that you'll face anywhere you go, any sport you play. But for me, the biggest thing was definitely getting used to the speed and then like a new coaching style than what I was used to. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that it was like I was shocked and like, oh my God, I can't play college basketball, but it was definitely like, wow, okay, like, these people are legit, like, they
Right.
can play. So
I always find it funny when people say they watch a college sport and they say, "Oh, that guy stinks," or "That girl stinks," and you're like,
go guard them.
Wait a minute, yeah, right, go guard them." But 3.7% of high school athletes get to make it to play college sports, so they can't stink. They don't stink. They might not be as good as other people on a team, but sitting at home on your couch saying somebody stinks
while you're eating popcorn, like,
right. Listen, I'm guilty. I've done it, but it when you have a kid that actually now does it, it makes you think twice about it because you're like, well, these kids don't stink. They may not fit in where they are, or they might not have made the adjustment yet, but they definitely don't stink. And
Yeah,
I
if they
think
stunk, they wouldn't have been there. They wouldn't
correct.
have even gotten there.
And when you hear that, like you said, you go to other schools and people are razzing you, and you hear that stuff, and you hear it in high school, but it might be like a snicker from the,
The pit
kids.
or whatever, yeah.
Right. But when you go to a college, you got 500 kids chanting you soccer or, it. How do you handle that?
I mean, for us, like at a Division II level, not many schools have those big like Penn State pits like you see at games or any of that stuff. So I mean, you don't really get as many heckles. Now it's kind of more so as crazy as it sounds, but it's not crazy because the same thing happens in high school. It's your own friends that'll come at you and be like, "Dude, you suck. What are you doing?" Like, or they'll just be like, "Dude, you're really not good." And it's like, okay, you're supposed to be my friend. Like, I don't want to hear that. But that's been a friend since high school. Like, especially your guy friends, they think it's the greatest thing in the world to come at you and be like, "I saw you airball," or "I saw you miss that layup," and it's like, dude, then you go out there and play.
Right.
Like, you don't play basketball. But I mean, I kind of don't have much experience with like the whole heckling from a 500 pit crowd. But I mean, if we're talking high school, like me, if I heard that, I would just start laughing and be like,
Right.
okay, you guys are really funny. Like, thank you for my like in-game entertainment right now.
As you're beating them, it's
Yeah.
It's funny, what was it? A few months ago, I asked if you think I would be, if we played on one-on-one, how many points I would be able to score, and you said, I don't know how many points you'd be able to score, but you wouldn't stop me. That was your response to me.
Playing a 10. If she's
Yeah,
taught you one, Nick, I'll give you can score one.
Yeah. So, uh, Doug, you have a few more questions on here if you want to ask. I like some of them.
One not associated with college, but with training. You grew up in Ocean County, and we know there's not many basketball facilities in the Ocean County area. Most kids that train go up to hoop group and train up there with Tiny. But you started training with Gary right from the beginning. So what was it about Gary that attracted you to training with him, and how did he change your game?
So for me, obviously, when I was younger, I kind of did fall into like the hoop group hype, and I don't want to say hoop group hype because it definitely did help me, but I mean that's kind of what it is. Like everyone goes to hoop group when you're younger, and you gotta go to court skills, you gotta go to all the camps and everything. Like that's just kind of how it goes when you're a basketball player in Ocean County. That's what you're kind of told you're supposed to do. So, I mean, when I was younger, I definitely did go there and do all of that. But then freshman year of high school, I started training with Zach Leach at first. That was at like See the Rim and everything. And then one of the days, Gary had come in to See the Rim. I think he literally was coming in just to do like a drop-in class, like he was just covering for somebody or something like that. And I wasn't even training with him. I was on the side and had like a court, like a little hoop to myself, and was just shooting around. He came up to me, he was like, "Hey, like you want to train? Like I'm doing a session in like an hour." And I was like, sure. Like I don't know you, but like I guess so. Like whatever. I'm not gonna turn down training. Like okay. And from that day out, I remember it so vividly. It was me, Molly Collins, and Gary. And that was the little training session. And I was like, wow, like this guy's stuff is great. Like Gary's a great guy. He's super motivational. He's funny. Like he keeps things light and airy. So you're never like, I know me, like if I miss a couple shots, like I'm going to get annoyed at training. And he's going to come to me and be like, man, you suck. And then laugh. And then it's just going to lift everything up. And like, it's just one of those like light and airy, funny situations. But like also a serious trade with like, all right, Jay, like we're doing this and this. This is how your footwork's gonna help you in this. And I mean, I like the challenge that he gives. Like who in the world would think to cross over and catch a cone in the air at the same time? I mean, not me. I used to ask all the time, like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm never gonna cross over and catch a cone in the middle of the game. But just doing the things and the different challenges, like I could tell how much it's helped my footwork, my hand speed, my hand-eye coordination with different things. And it's just fun. Like you go to another training, you're playing one-on-one. Like, yeah, that's fun, but where else do you go that you have to hit a ghost ball up in the air and then score a layup? Right. But it's actually helping you absorb the contact. So I mean, I definitely like the challenge of his training. I like the way I love Gary as a person. He's just one of those guys that like just all the positive kind of feeds off of him.
And very passionate. Especially with his original core, Maura, Donza, Bianca.
And just kind of having that belief in him that like he knew what he was doing and just going with it. And I mean, I am very, very, very thankful and glad that I trained with him once and then was like, all right, I'm going to stick with this guy. Let's see where this goes. Because I think he has been one of the couple people that I could give acknowledgement and credit to that I could really say helped change my game and like prepare me for everything that's going on. Like I don't know, there's times I use a move in the game and I'll be like, wait, when did I learn how to do that? And then I'm like, oh, we did that with that. Like, okay. But yeah, he's definitely one of the few people I could give credit to say that like they've helped advance the player that I am. Along with obviously like JT, Mayo, and like all of them, but yeah.
Good old JT.
Yeah. It all comes back to JT.
All comes back to JT.
When you were in 8th grade, you guys had a really good team at Intermediate North, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys had a really good team, and the talent in Toms River over the years has picked up, and your age especially and the year below has some really good players. So what made you decide to go to Donovan as opposed to staying in Toms River and kind of maybe building a dynasty with the kids at North?
So honestly, I would say it kind of was that same idea of like go build a program at Donovan kind of thing. And it also just Toms River North didn't have the greatest reputation of being greatest school. You know, like I don't want to shade on anybody, but like it kind of has its bumps as every other school does. But my parents are just a little bit more comfortable with me going to a smaller Catholic school and it kind of being a little bit more like contained. And the basketball program, as I was coming in, was up and coming. Like you had Molly Collins, Melissa Buxton, Alyssa Hershey. Like that was the core when I had come in as a freshman. So we kind of were walking into really good players. And then once I came in, then we had like really good players just continue to follow. And like I think my freshman year to like senior year, like we picked it up. Like we were 20 and something every single year, or 18 and something. So I mean, I don't want to like knock the North dynasty, but like we kind of built one at Donovan too. Yeah. So
no, that's good. And your did you play for Coach Bruno freshman year? Or did they switch right before your freshman year?
The switch was the summer right before my freshman year. Yeah.
So going in, thinking you're going to play for Coach Bruno, who I love the guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. And then they switched coaches. So, did that change anything for you? Or
I mean, I was definitely a little nervous just because I had never met Coach Jansen prior, and I had talked to Coach Bruno a lot, like during the summer. You know, like what workouts can I do as a freshman to like increase my varsity chances, like different things like that. But I mean, it never changed. Like, oh, I'm not going to work here anymore. Like, I never had that sense of like it was high school. Like, it wasn't college where I was like, oh my God, I have to decommit and go somewhere. Like, that's not a thing. Like, it's high school. If you really hated it that much, like, then you transfer the next year. But I ended up getting along fine with Coach Jansen and everything. Obviously, me and him can both attest. We had our little bumps in the road, but every coach does. And now me and Jansen are very, very, very close. I thank him for a lot. But it was a great 4 years of basketball, regardless of however many times I told Jordyn, over here. Then, you know, it ends up working out.
Who did you have more bumps with, him or JT?
Oh, I can't even answer that question. The amount of times I had a clipboard like smacked in front of me at an AU tournament and told, what are you doing? Where's your head? Is it up or behind? Like there so many times. But both of them, I mean, I feel like with any great coach and player relationship, you're always gonna have bumps because you're gonna be able to have that connection and communication that you can go back and forth and be like, okay, you want me to do this, but like, what about this? Like, I just got that layup or something, and then they're gonna be able to be like, no, shut up, I just told you what to do. And it kind of it works out, like if you have that push and pull system, and I feel like I had that with a lot of my coaches. So I mean, it was definitely nice because, you know, the bumps are necessary. You never have a smooth path to greatness. So
listen, I enjoyed my time at Donovan. I love the school.
Yeah.
I still love everything about it. So, you know, even though you had a great basketball experience, I'm sure you had a great academic experience also.
I mean,
so
I was definitely grateful that I chose to go there.
St. Rose for me. I remember when I interviewed Glenn, he tried to get me a Donovan hat when I was doing the previews before the COVID season. He goes, "We need to change that hat." So it kind of Glenn and JT, I could see them kind of have a similar. It seems like they both could come up with the same like wise ass
One-liners.
remarks. Yes, the
Yeah.
one-liners exactly,
Oh
because
yeah.
the first practice, during COVID, there was nothing going on, so I showed up to one of JT's team. Your team was doing the tri scrimmage down there by what's
That's
that?
smart.
Yes, yes. And that was the first time I actually got to hear JT coach. And after that, I asked you, how do you play for him with all his remarks?
See, I thought it made it interesting.
Yeah.
Like it would always be like a contest at the end of the game to see who had as many like wise comments like thrown at them and like who had the funniest ones. Like I would always be like, "So, mom, you want to hear this one?" Because I was like laughing in the middle of the game. Like it was
Yes.
great. And it's like for me, his little like comments, like the little shots and like cheap digs or whatever, like that obviously like gives me like motivation and fire. Like, all right, shut up. Like I'll do it. It's fine. But then at the same time, we at the end of the day, I'll be like, you're pretty funny. Like that was pretty good. And then you just laugh about it.
His best one-liner he had this year was a girl on his team kept missing layups, and he looks at her and he goes, "Are you throwing the game? Are you shaving points? Did you bet on the other team?" I'm like, oh my god, like who else can get away with that?
Uh-huh.
But you got to have a good sense of humor to play for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little bit thick skinned.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's his heart's there.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I know, you've played for JT forever with JT forever, and you've been training for Gary. Were they two people you were able to like lean on a little bit this
Yeah,
past year?
definitely. I mean, the amount of times JT called me and was like, "Are you all right? Are you good? What's going on?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Or I'd say something, he'd be like, "Do I have to come up there?" And I'm like, "No, you don't have to come up there." I'm like, "It's fine." But yeah, definitely both of them. They would call me, FaceTime me, check in on me like at least a couple times a month. So I mean, it was definitely two people I could rely on in case anything was going wrong, or if I felt like it was something more basketball related that I couldn't tell my parents or they wouldn't understand. Like them two are definitely a good like backbone to have.
And that tells you, you were in the right, situation your younger years when they reach out to you. You're in college now and they're still, reaching out to you.
Yeah.
I have one more question, but that could be the last question. So I don't know if you have any more, Doug.
Just what? All right. So what advice would you give?
There it is.
The same question. Jeez. Sorry, go ahead, Nick. I don't want to steer you.
No, I was like, my thing was going to be more towards, your brother, football player, coming up, just finished his freshman year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know you're very supportive of him. What advice would you give him when he gets to the next level and is playing football at the next level?
I mean, we're kind of going through this already because obviously freshman year of high school, like you kind of got to start thinking like, okay, where do I want to go start doing camps or send emails to and stuff. So like, I definitely have had the college experience with him, like already starting, and he's only 14.
Mm.
My advice to him would definitely just be to keep an open mind, try to make friends. Don't like sit in your room 24/7, and he's got pretty like thick skin. So like I think he'll be good regardless, but like just don't give up. Like I don't care if you're the last person in line, like just keep going. I don't care how hard it gets, but like never quit. And if it does mean that you have to transfer, you transfer. But don't just give up like your love of the sport because it wasn't going the way you planned.
Now, all right, one more question. When you decided to transfer, how long did you think about that? And what, like, did all those things go through your mind? Like, am I going to disappoint my parents? Am I going to disappoint or what are people going to think about me? I couldn't handle it. Did all those things go through your head when you were thinking about that?
There was definitely a ton of things. Like I was going back and forth for a decent amount of time of like, okay, do I want to just stick it out and try again next year and like come in and like just work my butt off all summer and like come in with a new mentality? Like, is it really best for me to just kind of start fresh somewhere else? I mean, there was a million questions through my head that I was like, okay, well, then if I leave, like, what about the couple friends that I did have there? Like, are they going to forget about me? Like, are my parents going to be, I mean, my parents were never mad because they just wanted me to be happy overall. But I mean, it was just one of those things of like, then I have to answer questions for everyone. Like, why am I transferring? Like, there was a lot. I mean, it was definitely a back and forth process. Like I had the idea for a decent amount of time of, okay, I think maybe I need to just kind of redo and like restart. But the actual decision was probably back and forth, and even like up until right before I did it, there was like a week of like, oh my god, do I do it? Do I not do it? It's like I knew what I really needed to do, but you have all those outside influences of like, well, what about this? What about that? And then eventually I kind of was just like, no, like I know this is what I need to do. I know this is what I want. I know I want a fresh start. And I kind of just was like, this is how it's supposed to go.
And did you feel relief when you
Oh,
finally?
I mean, when I kind of made my decision and like had told like my coach and everything, it was definitely a sense of relief of like, okay, like I did it. No one's mad at me. Like no one's mad at me from there. No one's mad at me from home. No one's mad at me anywhere. Everyone just wants me to like have the best of basically whatever was best for me. And it was definitely a relief because I didn't know how anybody was going to react, whether it was at school or at home. But I was grateful enough that everyone was supportive of what I wanted to do in my decision. So, yeah.
It has to be tough too.
Yeah.
I sent you, how tough was it, going to the coach, the coach, and that's just any, like any sport, 18-year-old kid, it's a big,
Yeah.
you probably, kids probably, like you said, you don't want to
I said, I feel like you get more scared of like the reaction versus like actually doing it. It's like, okay, well, now are they going to be mad at me if I want to leave? And it's like, I don't think any coach ever really should get mad at a player for wanting to transfer because regardless of if like, okay, yeah, maybe that might suck. Like you could have had big expectations from them. Like in the end, if you're a good person and a good coach, you just want what's best for
exactly
that stepped on your court. So.
Yeah. So.
I think the biggest thing we could take out of this is, for mental health purposes, is do what's best for you and don't worry about what anybody else.
And know that it's okay, basically, to not be okay. Like, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to reach out, for help.
Whether it's anybody, family, friends, reporters, like anybody, literally anybody.
So, all right, I'm done. You anything else, Doug, or anything you want?
I took up enough of your time on this nice Saturday.
Yeah. You have anything else you want to add, Jordyn?
I think we covered pretty much everything that I thought of.
Yeah. So once JT comes on for his third interview, we'll have to get you on for the fourth interview.
Yeah, I can't let him beat me. That's never happened.
So you have 3. JT has 2. Dave Patterson at Freehold has 2. Frank Lawrence at RBC. These are soccer coaches, 2. There has to be another basketball coach I interviewed twice. Dawn and Will. So I remember telling Will that, and he said, "Oh, that's good company." Being twice. So, but you are the only 3-time.
Yeah, we can't let JT beat me. That's never happened.
Yeah, you're not only 2-time and 3-time. Well, we're gonna get Morgan on too to talk about, one day. She'll be a 2-time guest. So. But yes, thank you for taking time out early this morning after getting home from work late. And enjoy. It's going to be a gorgeous weekend. And I'll be stuck at work overnight. You'll be stuck at work at night. And Doug's probably going to the beach for the weekend.
Nothing.
All right, guys. I appreciate you, taking time out this morning. And
thanks, Jordyn.
I look forward to seeing you guys over the summer.
Good luck with your decision.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck with your decision. All right, I'll let you off the hook there. All right, guys. Bye.
Thank you.